First and foremost, let's get into the three playmakers at 54 that I think the Cleveland Browns could really get into. And three of the playmakers that I think could still be available for the Cleveland Browns at pick number 54. I think we haven't done a good enough job in the city of breaking down what's going on with the draft because, we believe that since we have not hit on some of the picks in the draft, we kind of get into it late. We don't know who to target, and since we don't have a first round pick, I think we kind of shy away from talking about some of the prospects and stuff, and we kind of leave it to the prognosticators. But I wanted to get back, and I've been doing a deep dive for the last couple of weeks into some prospects that I think could fall to the second round, and we're going to go ahead and start with this guy right here, Jatavian Sanders. This guy, if you not have an opportunity to check him out, please go out and do so. YouTube, all you YouTube armchair dudes out there. Jatavian Sanders out of Texas, 6'4", 243, 45 receptions, 682 yards, 2 touchdowns. Played with Quinn Ewers. And he came on this year. This is one of those guys who's a hybrid. You say, G. Bush, we do not need another tight end. Why you always talk about the tight ends? This is not a receiver. You said we need to have a receiver. Well, listen, there's more than one way you could get a playmaker involved. This guy's 6'4", 243, depending on what he wants to run at the combine and at his pro day. If he runs anything in a sub 4.52s, 4.51s, God forbid he runs a 4.49, what some of these hybrids are doing, he's going to jump off the list, especially because he's the second tight end that's supposed to be off the board where Brock Bowers, the tight end, the great tight end from Georgia. I always call it that is Kevin Stefanski's dream is Brock Bowers, a guy he can move around and do certain things. But Jatavian Sanders is a guy who think of him more as a wide receiver hybrid guy that's going to be a mixed match with receivers, with tight end on linebackers. That's something we got to keep in contact with, understanding that you can get him involved the same way you get David Njoku. And I go back to saying how dominant it was back in the early 2010s when you had Hernandez and you had Gronkowski. And the way they just dominated the middle of the field for the New England Patriots, they employed that two tight end set, and it was tough, very tough to deal with. You may have that same thing if you got the athleticism of Jatavian Sanders, as well as David Njoku. You could do some nice things with that. So Jatavian Sanders is a guy or a name to watch for the Browns that could be slipping down. And you look for a guy like this if all of your other guys, 54 is kind of deep in the second round. 54 is kind of deep. So if you're not going to move up to go get some of these guys, because a couple of these guys you might have to move up to get that I'm going to talk about, this is a guy who could potentially be a dude that's there, that is ranked higher on your board than you will have at a receiver position, right? So you get to that Jatavian Sanders out of Texas. He might be one of those guys, but you know how I'm giving it up. And number two, I got to get back to the wide receivers, right? This is a guy who I feel like is going to be a monster. He reminded me of another guy coming out of South Carolina a couple of years ago. He reminds me of a bigger body guy. I don't want to say he like a Dez Bryant type guy. Let's go with South Carolina. Let's get to Xavier Legette. If you've watched any South Carolina football, if you watch SEC football, you know this guy is a bona fide monster. The only reason I think he didn't have as bigger numbers and a bigger name that he does right now is because I think that he has some quarterback issues. You know what I'm saying? Like Spencer Rattler was supposed to be the guy coming out of here. He ended up transferring from Oklahoma. Actually, that's so crazy. Him and Spencer Rattler and Caleb Williams was at Oklahoma at the same time. Caleb Williams ends up going to transfer when Lincoln Riley goes to USC. Spencer Rattler goes to South Carolina, and they thought they were going to have something. But Xavier Legette, when you look at it, speed, explosiveness, size, able to he reminds me of like a Deebo Samuel, but bigger, as you can see, 6'3", 227, has the production in SEC, 71 receptions, 1,255 yards, 7 touchdowns. And like I said, if he had better quarterback play, I thought he could have had more yards than that. And that's a lot of yards in college. physical guy. Has the ability to run away from people. He's a late bloomer, which I like about this guy because he was only a 4-star recruit coming out of high school. But this guy has long speed. He's big. He's physical. He has the DK Metcalf build, 6'3", 227. And this guy, and you say, G. Bush, why would this guy with this kind of production be in the second round for the Browns? Well, listen. You might have to go up in the second round to get him, but let's talk about it. I mean, the receiving core, when you got Marvin Harrison and you got all these guys coming out at receiver, LSU has 2 receivers that it can come out in the top 100 that could be possibly first-day receivers. So when you have all these doggone receivers, you're going to get some guys that drop down to you, and the Browns will be wise. If that guy is there, they can move up and go ahead and go get him, and this will solve a lot of things. Trust me. I don't listen. He is different. There is levels to this thing. There is levels from a Cedric Tillman and Xavier Legette. There's a reason why these guys are really high on my board. I definitely love Xavier Legette. And let me get to my number 1 guy. This is a really big boomer bust guy. I don't know necessarily if he's going to be there at 54. This is a guy you're going to have to package something up and go get. But you have to make a decision whether or not you feel more comfortable at going as more of a younger receiver. Say, for instance, your guys like Mike Evans are gone. You don't really want to go after a Hollywood Brown because you say he's a smallish receiver. We like his long speed, but we don't like that. Pittman is off the board. T. Higgins is all the way off the board. And you don't want to give a Gabe Davis, I don't know. You don't want to pay him $100 million because you don't think he's worth it. This is a guy right here where you can move up and talk about something. And I believe that's Troy Franklin. Troy Franklin is a speedster. He's a burner. He's in that 4.3 range. I think he'll run in that 4.3 range. I think in the wide open offense with Bo Nix, he put up some crazy numbers: 81 receptions, 1,383 yards, 14 touchdowns. And if there is any knock on Troy Franklin, it's the competition. We know how it is in Oregon. It's wide open. Pac-12 defenses are optional defenses. They don't really put too much stress on receivers. The great thing about this guy, he had a crazy release package. One of the things that stops a lot of people that are a little bit slight. He's 6'3", 187. He has a slender, slight build. Like, he's not as compact as Sanders or nowhere near as Xavier Legette. However, this guy's a true speedster. He got the Deshaun Jackson speed. He can get out. He can get on top of you and you finished. I think he does a really good job of using his hands to get off the line of scrimmage. The thing that also he could work on a little bit, he has deep threat ability. I would like to see him come down with more to 50-50 balls. He has great athleticism. He has a great vertical leap. He has the speed. He can get off the block. I just want him to be better at coming down with the 50-50 balls. That's something that Deshaun Watson is going to need. But I think when you talk about a boom or bust guy, Troy Franklin has the long speed. He has the long speed that I liked in Jalen Hyatt last year, and he's 6'3", and that's a nice build when he can go up and get the ball over smaller DBs. I think Troy Franklin is a guy that you really would like to go get when you're talking about receivers. Now you ain't gonna be able to sit tight and chill and hang out and get a guy like that at 54. You're going to have to move up. And, sometimes that could be a thing. In the chat, make sure you guys put this down. I want to let you guys know, are you comfortable moving up in the draft to get one of those guys? And would you do that if you need be? Would you move up need be for one of these guys in the draft? Or are you willing to let the draft come to you and just draft the best available? Let's get